What's good, you guys? Today we're talking about a collaboration on one of my favorite new models from New Balance with a collaborator that you might not be that familiar with, but don't worry, I did all the heavy lifting for you, and by the end of the video you should have a pretty clear view of the brand and their past projects and some really cool elevated details that were done on this model. So let's take a break from the Asics fatigue and get back to baseline, because today we're talking about the New Balance 1000 Bricks and Wood collab. Now, everything about this collaboration has just crazy details and elevated materials that you just don't see on every other New Balance 1000. And the first thing I have to talk about though is this box. It comes in this really nice ombre faded yellow that goes from the bottom to the top of the box. You have the co-branding on the top, and the longer sides have the Bricks and Wood branding. And then opposite the size tag, you see a different bounce, which just plays into their ad campaign for this release, which I'll get into later. But if you notice, the entire box is covered with that textured dimples that resemble a basketball, similar to how like Jordan Brand's been doing those concrete boxes lately and things like that. And you also get this massively co-branded tissue paper on the inside. So right out of the gate, the details are everywhere, and that continues most definitely on every part of the shoe. Now, in my most recent video about the New Balance 1000, where I kind of broke down all the different materials you could come across in this middle section, these were one of the ones I mentioned that caught my eye as just something different. I said in the last video that this was like a neoprene, but that was my mistake. It's a ripstop material, but you don't see this on any one of the other models, so I just thought that was really unique. And the more I looked into these, I realized that this entire upper, all these black overlays are 3M reflective. I'll put an image up right there, but that's crazy. I've just never seen that on an all black shoe, and as we get into the details of everything, it really just elevates the whole vibe. The toe box starts with that black 3M panel, and then you get the inlaid plastic silver hit on the lateral side, and then that embroidered chrome stitching on the medial. And then the material that makes up the top of the toe box is in this bright caution yellow that splits both the upper and lower panels, and that's in that ripstop material. Moving to the lateral side, you get the embroidered 1000 logo by the forefoot and these embroidered yellow motion lines around these embossed areas, and then that yellow N at the center, and this little black portion towards the bottom is the only area where you see like a little bit of fabric on the outside. And both that upper and lower portion are in that 3M material. In natural light, it just looks like kind of matted black, but it also has like a shimmer to it at the same time that kind of sparkles. Towards the heel, you get another inlaid plastic hit of chrome right there, and then the motion lines that take you to the 1000 logo with the New Balance branding above it. And then on another ripstop material, this time in black, you have the Bricks and Wood branding at the top, the BW, and the back of that heel tab is also in that same ripstop material. And then that classic 1000 stripe that goes around the heel just below the Absorb branding, this time it's actually just matted out, and you don't have that regular kind of plastic casing to it. Then on the medial side towards the heel, you get another hit of that ripstop material in black right by that embossed N on the midsole, and then the medial sides upper and lower is in that 3M again in black, and then you get that yellow trimming or almost like a piping that goes around the upper and lower overlay panels. On the lacing system, the panel that runs up the center is in this really nice feeling leather, and then at the top you have the co-branding with Bricks and Wood and New Balance, and then like a faded black to gray kind of gradient to that patch. And the laces that come on here are a really thick oval black lace with 3M dots inlaid into it, and it also comes with a second pair of laces that are in yellow, also with those 3M hits. And also both sets of laces that come on this have branding on the eglets that have the Bricks and Wood logo. And then the upper edges of the eye stays are also in black leather, and then the tongue itself is in that ripstop material. The back of the tongue sock liner and that inner portion of that extra heel cushion all come in black, and then the insole has a black to gray ombre fade again, and then at the base you get the Bricks and Wood logo, and then you have a different bounce written across it. The midsole comes in an off-white color with the yellow hits that are matted out on this version, and that really comfortable Absorb foam I've talked about in the past that will really surprise a lot of people on foot. On the outsole, you get a switch up of colors. You have this off olive that covers most of the traction pads on the outsole, and then these yellow portions inlaid by the forefoot where you can see the Absorb branding. Then you have the yellow hit at the heel of New Balance, and that midfoot shank is in that olive color as well. This whole traction style to me has always looked like a dinosaur foot, and I think with this color blocking it really shows that even more. So from the all over 3M upper to the laces to the leather hits, this as a collaboration on a 1000 compared to some others is really in a league of its own, and this is an attention to detail that has always existed with Bricks and Wood collabs, and I will get into more of those as I explain a little bit more history about the brand. So for those that don't know, Bricks and Wood is a South Central LA based brand with big ties to that community and an emphasis on authenticity and storytelling that's put into all of the projects that they work on. It was founded in 2014 by Casey Lynch, and he was born and raised in South Central LA. The first collaboration for the brand with New Balance was in 2021 on the 5740 in this green, white, and red with these hits of yellow, and that was just a modern kind of remake model of the classic 574. Tying into that strong sense of community behind the brand and that emphasis on authentic storytelling, the color palette for this shoe was actually inspired from a local liquor store, the Liquor Bank, which was in the South Central area. When asked about this being the source for the inspiration of the colorway, it was not only the fact that it was a known local spot, but also playing into the ethos of the brand itself, bricks and wood being meant to represent the foundation of what one needs to move forward. This building actually stood with red brick and had a wood green roof, and then the little hits of yellow that you see on the midsole of the shoe actually come from the signage itself. And much like these New Balance 1000s, that model also had insane details. You got that West Coast inspired paisley print on the box and the insole, you have custom tagging behind the tongue, and you also got 3 sets of laces included with these. And all these details, from the paisley bandana print to the actual colorway inspiration, all play into his background as a South Central native. The next collaboration with New Balance was in 2023 on the 9060 that came in this white and gray colorway, and this was actually inspired by his grandmother's house where he spent most of his childhood. You can see even on the top lid of the box it came with this kind of crocheted knit pattern with these brick graphics, and then you have the 9060 labeled out almost like you would see it addressed on a house. And lastly, the green pods on the midsole meant to represent the grass on the lawn, and the insoles themselves having a grass pattern. All of these details again just showing a really personal attachment to where these inspirations come from, and a very solid base for how important the storytelling is for his brand. As the brand grew, the next collaboration they would work on with New Balance was in 2024 on the 1906U, and this brand campaign had the slogan of Echoes of a Butterfly. And when asked specifically about the meaning, Lynch just said that he wanted each individual to take whatever they personally felt from that idea of metamorphosis or that butterfly effect. And this collaboration also representing the butterfly effect that was happening within his own brand as it grew larger. And the inspiration for this colorway is actually from the Madagascan sunset moth, and it comes complete with all those details you would expect from bricks and wood at this point, with the butterfly logo on the tongue and also on the box lid, and then the graphic of the box itself being in a leaf, almost cocoon design to represent that transformation. And keeping with the through line of authenticity for his brand, when Lynch was asked about the inspiration for this collaboration, he actually was humble enough to give all credit that was due to his team member Daniela Barraza, who was the lead designer on this. They had all made their own mock-ups, but hers was the one they ultimately went with, so he does give all the credit on this collaboration to her. And lastly, for All-Star Weekend in 2025, they came out with this dual pack with a basketball shoe alongside the New Balance 1000, and this came under the brand slogan of a different bounce. He speaks here briefly about how the idea of this is meant to mix the aspects of the on-court dynamics with the off-court culture that goes along with it, and I feel like a deeper reasoning here that makes a little bit more sense to me is the fact that Lynch himself's first idea of a career was basketball, and he played in high school until he got injured, and that's when he decided to kick in Plan B, which was his dream of having a clothing store of his very own. Also, his favorite color being yellow explains why that dominates both of these models. So with all that brand history and background of the detail-oriented way he goes at all these collaborations, it really adds a nice touch to this and makes it just more than just a regular New Balance 1000. But let's get into sizing on these, because that's a little bit of a different topic. I mentioned in my very first New Balance 1000 video that this toe box looked thin before I had bought the model, and I was worried that it would be a little cramped. On the Snipes exclusive and on my This Is Never That collabs, that was actually not a factor, but on these there is a bit of tightness in the crest of the toe box area that I kind of was fearful of in the beginning. Comparing it is obviously very different because these materials are a bit more rigid. I thought that ripstop material would have more give to it, but maybe it's these 3M panels or something, but it is very stiff. I can't really compare it to that mesh because it's just a totally different feel, but I'm going to put some side-by-side on-foot images here, and you can kind of tell that there's just not a lot of give there, and this is just a little bit too tight for my liking. Comparing that to the Snipes and the This Is Never That and now these, I feel like these models are going to vary widely on the materials that are used on that upper. I know I warned about this before, but I think this is just another example to reiterate that. But with all that being said, an update to my sizing recommendations would simply be go to a store, find a model that has the similar materials you're looking for and try them on, and just be careful of the different materials because these seem to just vary from model to model. So it's not, you know, cut and dry where you know what you're gonna get just because it is that way on this one. And the only caveat to that I would add for sizing is for anybody who hasn't seen any of my previous videos, I am a wide and flat footer, so that does come into play. If you have more narrow feet, you'll probably be just fine true to size, but for me it's an issue. But as far as on foot, these are just sick. I don't really like predominantly black shoes pretty much ever, but with it all being in that 3M and then you get the different material mixtures, it just becomes so much more than that, and it's very subtle and can be worn. And I mean, as far as shoes using yellow, usually it's like I will stay far away from that, but on this one it just works, and there's just that right amount of a hit to it that it doesn't overdo the silhouette. And I just think it comes together overall really nicely where it is subtle but also has a pop to it at the same time. And the underfoot experience of the New Balance 1000 in general is going to surprise a lot of people. It is extremely comfortable. I've had shoes with the absorb foam like I've said before, but this being completely absorbed from front to back, I don't know what it is, but this just feels a lot softer than other models that I've had in the past. I do recommend getting a pair of 1000s. It's just about being careful about which one you get. But that's gonna wrap it up for my review on the New Balance 1000 Bricks and Wood collab. And overall, I think this collaboration is sick. All of the elevated materials really hit hard. It was just done very well. I do want to keep this shoe. It's just a sizing issue for me, so I'm gonna try and sort that out. But anyways, guys, thanks for watching, and remember, life's short, so buy the shoes.